By Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. As you finally made it to Friday, folks, we got a weekend ahead of Razorback basketball. We got some conference championship talk that we're going to get into. And, of course, get to your chats and some of your phone calls at 478-344-6623. But as you see from the title of the stream, and something with some impeccable timing and not necessarily a surprise, Razorback tight end Luke Hasz has officially entered his name into the transfer portal. He was a preseason All-SEC player. He was a guy that in his freshman year was really coming on the scene, but due to an injury against Texas A&M, took him out for the season. But he finishes his final year at Arkansas, 26 catches, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns. And guys, we've talked about it. We kind of felt like this was going to happen, but now it's official. Luke Hasz is no more.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to be able to do these things when Arkansas gets someone, and it'll be a little bit more exciting. That part of the transfer portal comes next week. But yeah, right now it's just not retaining a lot of your best players. I mean, if you look at it, offensively to the transfer portal, Arkansas has lost its top returning wide receiver and tight end and offensive lineman, and in the eyes of many, quarterback. So they're just like a Braylon Russell tweet away from going across the board at the offensive positions and losing their best player to the transfer portal. I don't think that's a good thing. But yeah, it just adds on to exactly what we've been talking about, which is the entire point about retaining your best players is so you could add talent on top of it instead of having to replace, because that dilutes it lowers your ceiling, quite honestly, when that's the case. And now you are 2,647 receiving yards out the door. That's 82% of their total. 188 receptions. That's nearly 80% of their total. 11 of their 14 touchdown receptions are gone. So your leading returners in receptions are Rashad Dubinion, 16, Rodney Hill, 8, and Jordan Anthony, 8. That's what we have. Two running backs and Jordan Anthony, the wide receiver, unless you get Jaquindon Jackson back, who had 13. So your pass catching production returning is all from running backs. That's where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, what is this, like 5 days in a row now where we've had to kind of do this same spiel of, hey, regardless of whether or not you think Luke Hasz was a star, or you think he was a bust, or you think he sucks, or you think he's just mid, whatever it is, it's less of, we don't even have to have that conversation. Arkansas is now tasked with adding another piece that they're going to have to replace that they weren't supposed to have to replace. Because Arkansas had their work cut out for them this offseason regardless. Or even if everyone that's transferred out had stayed, Arkansas would still have a lot of work to do in the transfer portal. So now that you're losing all these key pieces, it just adds to it. It doesn't do a ton to dispel the narrative that Arkansas is kind of heading down, a bad route here. Listen, we felt like this program was at a crossroads a couple of weeks ago. They chose their one path, and we're going to find out where that path leads. Again, there's a lot of work to be done in this transfer portal. And with Hasz in particular, like you guys said, it wasn't the most stunning news of all time. There was just simply too much smoke for there not to be a fire at some point. Dating all the way back to his high school days when he was a recruit. So we'll see where he ends up. But I think that's 2 days in a row now, guys, where Arkansas had a future NFL player on their roster on offense, and they are no longer there. And look, this Arkansas team, I don't know how many true players on this roster right now have a chance to play in the NFL. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Like, we could really sit there and go through the names and maybe find some guys. I don't know who they would be, but I'm just saying, like, it's not a big, there's not many NFL players just walking around Fayetteville. So when you lose 2 in 2 days, seems like not ideal if you ask me.
Yeah, it's not. And there's no other way to sugarcoat it. As you said, Curtis, which I think is a very legit point and something that needs to be remembered, that there are going to be players that they bring in out of the transfer portal. You just can't yet. So, there'll be some excitement. There'll be some pop. There'll be some guys that maybe, hopefully, you have that you can get excited about. But to your point too, Andrew, the fact that you had 2 players that you felt really were important to the team, that were really good, really high caliber, and now they're gone. It's just hard, given the circumstances, given the way things have gone for Razorback football, given the way that the portals work for Arkansas, to just think that you're going to go into the portal and get somebody just as good, if not better. Like, it'd be one thing when you lose Davion Dozier, or whoever. Because it's like, okay, whatever. But you're talking about key contributors, guys that were, when they were healthy, started. And were big pieces of starting. And now they're gone. And so it's just really hard to have faith or to believe that, it's okay. You'll get another tight end. It'll be fine. No, somebody else is going to get a really great tight end in Luke Hasz. And you're going to be, you're not saying you can't get anybody. You can't get a tight end because you're going to have to fill it. But anybody believing or thinking that you're just going to go into the portal and get somebody just as good as Luke Hasz, you're just kidding yourselves. You're absolutely kidding yourselves.
Yeah, they're probably not going to be able to replace him. I'm like, could they go out and get somebody who's, better or more productive than Isaiah Satania? Yeah, sure. But that's not the point. The point is you now have to do that, and you have to replace Andrew Armstrong's production, and you have to replace what you got from Tesla. It goes across the board, and just not having that returning production penciled in, it just limits your ability to go out and do that. And it takes away your ability to go address other needs. You're going to have to make some choices at some point financially on what you're going to do here. But every day this week, Arkansas has lost a starter on offense. So what the hell is really going on here? I mean, is it all money? Is it Petrino? Is it don't want to play with Taylor Green? Is it a combination of all those things? Like, why is all this attrition coming on the offensive side of the football? It's kind of what I want to know right now. What the hell is going on?
Well, you remember on Monday, we were Bobby Petrino's status was very much up in the air. We didn't know what was going to happen with that Charlotte deal. And we noticed that 2 defensive players announced they were coming back. And so on Monday, we were kind of like, okay, maybe that means there's some stability on the defensive side. And we don't know what's going on with Bobby. Then we get the announcement that Bobby has withdrawn his name. And we're like, okay, so all is well. Arkansas's got some things, some stability there on the offensive side of the ball. We felt like that was important. And then you lose everyone except for the guy that the fan base wanted to lose, which is Taylor Green. And again, it's not that Arkansas can't go out and get. I mean, look, it wouldn't even stun me if Arkansas went out there and dropped a bag and got a tight end who you're like, oh, hey, he had more yards last year than Luke has. Maybe he's going to be a better guy. Like, you can talk yourself into it, but again, it just doesn't. That's not the point. The fact that you had a tight end on your roster and you lost them, and now you're just adding to what you have to replace. And don't forget, Arkansas had 2 tight ends quit or get kicked off the team in the middle of the year as well. Not that those guys were super productive pieces, but it just adds to kind of what Arkansas is going to have to replace in the transfer portal. And John, like you said, no, someone else is going to get a really good tight end. You know what Arkansas would love to get out of the portal? An offensive lineman with 2 years of starting experience that graded out pretty well this past year. Maybe a redshirt sophomore receiver who had a nice little productive season and is on track for an even better season as a redshirt junior. Or maybe a sophomore tight end who's got some NFL talent and was a high recruit and it really has a chance to break out next year. Like, these are the kind of guys that Arkansas would love to get in the portal. And they're not only not getting in the portal, they're seeing them leave their program. And so I really just don't know how you can spin this as a good thing. So let's just take a little look at the tight end roster as it stands now for Arkansas. You've got Maddox Lassiter, who next year will be a redshirt sophomore. And by the way, I'm listing him as a tight end. He played fullback for Arkansas this year. So we'll see. I guess he's your TE1 now. You've got Shamar Easter, who will be a redshirt sophomore. I believe he has 1 career reception, and that came in the UAPB game. He's a guy that Sam Pittman openly said was not really ready to contribute. And he was like, yeah, it's going to be, this was a few weeks ago. He said, yeah, it's probably going to be a little while. He needs a little bit more seasoning. We need a little bit of work with him. Pretty much openly says he's not ready to contribute at the SEC level. You've got the freshman Gavin Garrettson from California, who's a converted defensive end. They're going to try and convert him into a tight end. And Posky is the one we don't really know about because he's listed as a senior this past year, but he didn't play as a freshman. So maybe he has a year of eligibility left. He did have that 2-touchdown game against Mississippi State. Point is, it's really bleak. And this is a position group that, less than 2 years ago was one of the strengths of the team. Kind of the opposite of the linebacker room, how the linebacker room went from the worst position group on the team to the best. The tight end room went from a real strength for Arkansas to a completely depleted unit.
Well, and also to add in, when Curtis, you were bringing up the people, or is it a Petrino thing, is it a Taylor Green thing? Maybe it's a Morgan Turner thing, because the tight ends have been bouncing out a little bit more frequently here. And since Morgan Turner's been here, there hasn't really been any production from the tight end position. I know Luke has had his thing, but even last year, Ty Washington was one of those players that fans were, and I think we were like, why is this guy not getting involved more? Because the times he gets involved, the game changes, and it seems like he's such a great player. But for whatever reason, they have struggled, whether it's Dan Enos or Bobby Petrino, they've struggled to get the tight ends involved. And it's not because of lack of talent. You've had talent at the tight end position. It's either because you choose that way, or you just don't trust him, or you have a quarterback problem, whatever it is. It's a problem. It's an absolute problem. And so you're going to see the guys you just listed off playing in the bowl game at tight end. And who knows, maybe they won't even use a tight end. Maybe they'll go air raid or something like that to try to avoid this. But another thing I wanted to throw in when you mentioned the production and what's leaving, it kind of reminds me of a few years ago when you lost Matt Landers, Hazelwood, Trey Knox, Keytron Jackson, Warren Thompson, and all those guys. I guess you didn't lose Jason Wilson until later, but you lost a lot of production then, and you were able to come back with it. But the only difference is that you had one guy transfer, but that was mostly because everybody was out of eligibility. This is a different thing where you got guys leaving, going to play somewhere else, and they're probably going to be really good wherever they end up going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's true, and I see a lot of people in the chat saying this happened. This is going to happen everywhere, and listen, like people are going to transfer out of every program. That's kind of part of the deal. But where you have a majority of your returning starters opting to enter the transfer portal, that only happens in places that are struggling, where a coordinator just got fired and they're replacing him, or it's a very much a hot seat situation. This happens in other places. It happens in places where things are not going well. Mm-hmm. So let's make sure we have that clarification there. This, losing, a key starter on every position group on the offense does not happen everywhere, and it shouldn't.
Well, here's the thing. If you were doing, like you said, Curtis, if you were doing what you want to be doing as a program, you would have mass exodus, but it would be you processing players. Yeah. Your third team right guard, your fifth tight end, your sixth linebacker, those kind of guys. I don't want to start listing names. Arkansas's got plenty of guys that you would kind of think you would expect to see transfer because they're not going to play and they're buried on the depth chart. Replaceable pieces. Not to say that these guys are all irreplaceable, but yeah, it is not normal and should not be expected for your top returning players to be transferring. And look, that's fine and dandy. You can say the whole, people are going to leave everywhere and it's just kind of the world we live in. Okay, well then we're going to find out in about 2 weeks if Arkansas is going to be on the other end of it and they're going to be snagging guys from other teams. I have a hard time believing Arkansas is going to be poaching SEC guys from other SEC schools, but I know for a fact SEC schools are going to be poaching from Arkansas. So y'all can do whatever mental gymnastics y'all want to. This is not a good development for Arkansas. Again, it's not that these guys are irreplaceable, but now you have to replace them when you didn't have to before, and you still also had a lot of work to do before these guys left. And so color me pessimistic that Arkansas is going to be able to really reload this roster and improve their talent, which is kind of the whole thing we were sold on of, we'll give Pittman another year. We'll get more talent in here. I think Arkansas, as it stands today, is going to be a substantially less talented team going into next year when you have a much harder schedule. So this coaching staff, a coaching staff that I actually like for the most part and believe in. Mm-hmm. I mean, not Sam Pittman, but a lot of the guys on defense, by Petrino, Fouch, I feel like is a good receivers coach. They've got their work cut out for them, and I do not envy them. They have a lot of work to do this offseason, and it's not going to be easy.
Nope, not at all. And I think it's a great point you both bring up of it's one thing to lose players because everybody does, but when you lose your best, that's never good for anybody, because you look at other programs, ones that had success, one that you feel like are in good spots. You know what they're not doing? They're not losing their best players. Ole Miss last year, they didn't lose their Jackson Dart. They didn't lose that player. Alabama didn't lose a Jalen Milroe. They don't lose their best players. And I don't care what anybody says. I mean, guys, before the year started, Kudus has top 5 players on the team, no doubt. It had to be. And now they're gone. Just gone. And the Kudus thing is still weird, from the clip we played yesterday of Pittman, like, he told me he's going to be a Hog. Nope. No, he's not. So there's a really good chance that it's not over with. There's going to be other players that leave into the portal, but there could be some legitimate key players that enter into the transfer portal. So we'll get to some of your chats here in a second. I think that it's a nice little segue, though, to give you our Alumni Hall question of the day. It's presented by Alumni Hall. Check it out today. You can shop them online at alumnihall.com. Also, head over there in Fayetteville, right next to the Whole Foods at 3417 North College Avenue. All the Razorback apparel you could possibly think of, dream of. They have it all, especially in time for Christmas and the holiday season. So get over there to Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. I asked this question before Hasz got into the portal. But which player on the current Razorback roster is the most important to keep for next season? And ironically enough, guys, by 0.1%, where it stands right now, Luke Hasz was the number one player that Razorback fans felt like they needed to keep on the roster, followed closely by, which also at 36%, Braylon Russell, and then at 24%, Jalen Braxton. 4% said other, but to me, those are the really only three, or now two, that you really need to take that into consideration. So that's what Hawk fans feel. I don't know if they will.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jalen Braxton would be my pick. But also, it's funny that Luke Hasz is the guy that the fan base voted on, because I'm sitting here watching the fan base tell me why this isn't a big loss and why actually, no, this is normal and this is, I mean, this was expected. And, you know, he actually doesn't have the right frame for tight end. And actually, Bobby needs to get his own guys. Like, I think at this point, this fan base will talk themselves into whatever happens. And, you know, with Jalen Braxton leaves, oh, well, you know, he didn't play last year anyway. He was banged up. Probably was going to be a bust anyway. Like, I don't think there's a player that Arkansas could lose, including Taylor Green. I don't think there's a player Arkansas could lose that this fan base wouldn't find a way to talk themselves into it being a good thing.
Yeah. I also will say that if they lose both those players, and Braylon Russell and Jalen Braxton, it was all a mistake to make this thing still work. It was all a mistake. I mean, a lot of people feel that way, and you could feel that way right now. But, man, if you lose legitimately your top 5 best players that you were counting on to returning next season, you lose all 5 of them, you're a joke. You're trash. Like it's a dumpster fire. It's awful. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in the next few days for those players. So we'll see. All right, so let's get to your chats. I know we got phone calls, folks. We'll get in those here about we'll get there about 12:40-ish. So if you're on the line, you can either call back or hang tight, whichever one you want to do. But we will get to those as well. A few super chats here to get to. Appreciate Sean. Says, if the staff can't keep the core, then why keep the staff? It's a good point. It's like
completely fair question, I would say. Because, I mean, that was kind of the main selling point is like, hey, you know, you don't want to make a big picture move. You just try and keep what you have and then add to it. So if you lose what you have, it very much is fair to question that.
Mm-hmm. Also, this comes from Hogwild YT. He says, didn't all these players get recruited by Bryles? Yeah, a few of them did. But
a decent amount.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, Bryles, I will say Bryles was not super involved in recruiting for the most part. Like, he would obviously recruit quarterbacks, but he wasn't like a recruiting guru by any means. You know, I feel like a lot of the, like, for instance, Patrick Kudus, I doubt that they ever spoke on the phone until Patrick Kudus got on campus. Like, I don't think he was a big deal in that recruiting process. And, you know, who weirdly enough recruited Luke Hasz? Dow Loggins. I remember when Dow Loggins left, that was a big thing where people thought Hasz was going to decommit. So, you know, we'll see how that ends up. But, yeah, I mean, in college football these days, you know, guy who you get recruited by, there's less loyalty than ever to like the guy who recruited you, I guess.
Also, he says, Hogwild YT says, well, Kentucky lost almost all their wideouts. Just saying. Okay, but again, that doesn't.
And they had a dog shit season.
Yeah.
And Arkansas is not in the mix for a lot of those guys.
Yeah. It'd be one thing if they had 10 wins and then they lost all of their wide receivers, but they didn't. It's like usually the teams that suck have the most players jumping ship. It's kind of how it works. And then Ty also, appreciate all the super chats though, folks. Ty says, if they don't want to be a hog, I don't want them. Okay. That's fine.
I mean,
you don't want to hold anybody here against their will.
Well, yeah. Fair. Yeah, you don't want to hold it. But then, you know, with that mentality, then you're just not going to have elite talent on your team ever.
I did put this one up. I'll go ahead and read it. Stripius says, appreciate super chat. In classic fashion, Hawk fans are losing their minds in the offseason. I'm going to wait until the end of the portal season to get upset if it is warranted. I mean, that's another fair point.
Yeah, that's a fair approach. And I don't know. I can't figure it out because it was all pitchforks and everything after that Missouri game. But then when we get into the situation where your really good players are actually leaving, then all of a sudden people are just unbothered by, like, I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
I mean, I do think there is a fair, I guess, a point to be made of like, if people thought the team wasn't good anyway, it's like, who cares who you lose from the team? It's just all about what you do in the portal. And frankly, like, you know, on signing day, we kind of said, this is nice, but it's all about what Arkansas does in the portal. During the season, you know, we could say, hey, this is nice, but it's all about what Arkansas does in the portal. So I actually like agree with Stripius' stance of let's just see what happens in the portal. But that's kind of my overall point is like, what we thought Arkansas was going to have to accomplish in the portal, that task is getting harder and harder as the days go by. And I am not super optimistic that they're going to be able to like crush it in the portal. Because that class that they had that ranked 9th in the country, I think they had 10 commits total. And like, this is just a completely different world. That was also pre-NIL. That was just a completely different world. Arkansas is going to have to go out there and get like 30 transfer guys, and like 20 of them are going to have to be good. So, there's a lot of work to do, but I absolutely like, if Arkansas goes out there and crushes it in the portal and gets a loaded roster, I'll eat my crow and I'll be like, hey, tip my hat. Great job, Sam Pittman.
Well, and also too, to that, we were kind of talking before the show started, like how much money for the NIL is coming off the books with Hasz and with Patrick Kudus. Is it an inordinate amount, or was that part of the reason why they left is because they weren't getting that much? Somebody offered them more, which is obviously very possible too. I mean, that's a big question there. But listen, your best players, it's good. I think it's a good correlation that usually your best players are the one that are making the most in NIL. I feel like that's probably a good standard. Well, you lost some of your best players, so guess what? You should have NIL opening up. And if you have a crappy transfer portal class, then I think it's going to be a lot deeper than just NIL. It's going to be, maybe just people don't want to play for you. Maybe that's a problem. A few more super chats. Again, really appreciate it, folks. Cat John Nice says, what explains everything is that Hunter Yurchek is looking to leave. He'll probably go to TCU. Explains Petrino exploring options and the radio silence from Sam Pittman.
I think there's another factor with Sam Pittman, as in like he just had a huge surgery.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Yurchek thing I think is fair because I mean, Yurchek himself hasn't been super active. He put out a couple little win as one Razorback tweets, but he went a few days without doing that, and so I think that's probably fair a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
But I don't know if it explains all the portal exits.
But yeah, because I just don't think portal exits usually have, I don't know, sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, looking into it too much as far as like, it has to be this reason. Sometimes it's a plethora of reasons, and sometimes it's reasons we don't even think of or don't even know. So that's what makes it kind of difficult, but also fun to speculate and to try to connect some dots. Also, Spectre Stream says, once they said Pittman was staying, all it did confirm to me was that they do not care about football anymore.
New profile pic, Spectre Streams.
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful one.
I like that. I like that.
A little tie-dye action there, too. Yeah, appreciate it. And also, Joel says, I'm actually fine with Hasz leaving. He can't stay healthy. He's unreliable and not worth the investment. So
we got it.
Huh?
Yeah. All right. Listen, we heard you loud and clear.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Joel. And appreciate the super chats from everybody. All right. There is a few other things that we'll get into as far as chats go as well, because I know we'll dive into that. But let's go ahead and work through a couple of phone calls real quick before we move on. I don't believe, maybe this person has called in, but we'll see. Jason, who is in Little Rock. What's up, Jason?
Hey, well, I'm actually in Hazen today, but I don't know why I said Little Rock. But I've commented on y'all's live feed before, and before we get started, I just want to clarify something with I can't even think of his name now. Well, I guess with all of you guys, I have made comments before about the media not being hard enough on Pittman that wasn't specifically aimed at you guys. Okay, but it's hard to tell the tone of voice or the way that I'm meaning it in just a comment on a YouTube video. Okay, so I feel like you guys are very even-handed with the way that you talk about Pittman and whether or not he should be here. It's just like, the drive times and Trey Biddies and people like that I get frustrated with. Specifically, like yesterday when they're talking about Patrick Kudus being gone, hitting the portal. Just immediately Biddy says, "Oh, well, there's plenty of those guys. There'll be plenty of Patrick Kuduses to go get in the portal and all this and that." And, I listened to y'all's guys' show yesterday, and y'all specifically said, "Actually, no, there's not." And I agree with that. You're not just going to replace Patrick Kudus off the cuff out of the portal, man. Like that was a big blow that was dealt. Along with Luke Hasz and Isaiah Satania. I mean, he's an Arkansas guy that you just lost. This is not small beans. I mean, do you guys agree with that?
No, I absolutely agree with it.
I also think it's difficult to have a better team next season, if you have to replace your already good players, you need to add on to that. Just for the record, I mean, I'm looking at 24/7 Sports, ironically enough, right now, their transfer portal rankings, and Patrick Kudus is the number 3 overall available transfer right now in the country. So,
there you have it. Yeah, those guys aren't growing on trees, man. They already had a monumental task. As it was, that was assuming that they retained the core guys. That's not even, factoring in that, hell, we just lost, 3 or 4 or 5. We don't know how many are going to end up being gone. I mean, it could be half a dozen of the best guys on the team before it's all said and done. I guess as somebody that wants Sam Pittman to leave, it just becomes even more difficult to chew up and swallow every day. But I want to ask you guys something. I had a couple other questions, but I'll actually just forego those if you'll just answer this one. Me and a buddy of mine have talked about this over the last couple of weeks several times. In my opinion, what Sam Pittman is going to end up doing is he's going to overstay his welcome into 25, and it's just like on Batman, where you either die a hero or you stay long enough to see yourself become a villain. Right, you remember that in The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
In my opinion, that's what Sam Pittman's going to do. Like he could step away, and right now, every Saturday they could show him up in the press box with him and Jamie, chugging cold beer, whatever, or she's drinking screwdrivers. I think she likes the hard stuff. They could show him up there every Saturday and say, "Oh, look, there's Sam Pittman. He's here this week. Oh man, he got him out of the gutter. He's a fixture here in Arkansas. He retired in Hot Springs. Everybody sees him on the lake." He could get that kind of treatment every Saturday. But what he's going to, in my opinion, what he's going to do is he's going to stick around too long to where everybody's like, screw that guy. Hey, he ended up just ringing us for money as long as he could, and he's going to go out a villain. So anyways, I'll get off here and let y'all go on, but I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate the phone call, Jason.
Yeah, good call. I mean, he could step away before he becomes a villain or whatever, but he'd be stepping away from several millions of dollars, which I probably wouldn't do. My question, I mean, it goes back to what we've been talking about in the past of what was he brought to Arkansas to do, right? It was to get them out of the situation they were in, get the program back to respectability. And I don't know that people necessarily thought that it was going to go beyond that. So if he did that, then what are we doing here? But I don't fault him for not stepping away from the program or something. If I had, tens of millions of dollars waiting to come into my pocket, I'd stick around until they made me leave. Personally, that's just me.
100%. That's why it's like you can't even really knock Pittman. Obviously, Pittman is the head coach. He's responsible. He's the one that will wear the blame. But yeah, I agree. Like it does suck because as someone who really likes Sam Pittman as a person, I've enjoyed covering him as the head coach at Arkansas and kind of want to see him succeed and love that the fan base kind of viewed him as this awesome guy. I felt like this offseason was kind of the flawless time to agree mutually. All right, we're parting ways, but we're going out on a pretty solid note. Things are stable. And I kind of the pushback that we got when we were kind of championing the fact that they should fire him was that, well, you have to, and kind of what Marcelo said was like, well, you can't fire him after a 6-6 season. Like it has to be worse than that before you can fire him. So now we're going to wait until things get worse, which, it seems like is going to happen. And I just feel like that hurts the program more in the long run than it would be. Because like, what was the goal? Like you said, Curtis, what was the goal when you hired Pittman was to get the program on a more stable ground, which it is now currently on. Like that's what Pittman did. And so it just sucks that it's going to have to end with disaster. It's going to have to end with the program crumbling back down from that stability that he had somewhat built. And so, yeah, from a PR standpoint, Pittman is going to not be remembered as fondly because this thing has drug out so long. And look, I also want to clarify, like, again, I'm not saying he can't turn it around or the team is definitely going to suck next year. It's a long offseason. We'll see what they do. But just kind of based on how the season played out down the stretch, based on the first few days this portal season, there's a lot of work for the staff to do. And so, yeah, it's not looking great.
You could end up really being hated is a very strong term, but somebody who is not looked favorably upon. Like I would still make the argument that Brett Bielema is not looked upon favorably by Razorback fans. I would say that, of course, Chad Morris is an obvious one, but there was still a time, and I'm one of them, didn't look favorably upon Houston Nutt. Like, just to be a former coach, and if you got fired or people weren't happy with you or whatever at the end, it's a lasting effect. And for Sam Pittman, if he goes 4-8 next year, which is a very, very good chance that there's something like that, there's not going to be one thing that people look favorably about Sam Pittman. But if you take it back to the Chad Morris, if Chad Morris got a third year, I wouldn't have been mad at Chad Morris. I would have been mad at Hunter Yurachek. Be like, what are you doing? Because again, everybody's going to be in that same spot. So yeah, you can't be mad at Sam Pittman for staying here. You got to be mad at direct your frustration to the right places, which would be Hunter Yurachek in the administration for sure. But good call. We appreciate it, man. Mm-hmm. Shout out another super chat. Shout out to Whitty. Appreciate you, Whitty, as always, man. Says there is so much happiness today. I love it. Gymnastics competition season starts today for my daughter. Gymnastics is one of the sports I'm thankful for not having to compete in. Well, good point. So
you and me both.
Yeah, positive vibes there for Whitty. Appreciate that, Whitty.
Best of luck to your daughter. And hey, I'm excited for Razorback gymnastics, which gets going here in about January, I guess. Mm-hmm. They had a good year last year. I like going to the gymnastics meets. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jordan Weber is pretty good at what she does. She knows a little thing or two about gymnastics. So, but yeah, good luck to you, and we appreciate it. Let's go to the calls again. A few of these real quick. Again, I apologize. I'm just going to roll it out there and hopefully I get it right. Is this Hardy calling from Texas?
RD,
close enough. Gotcha. What's up, man?
Well, here's the bottom line I want to tell you guys is, and I've been trying to be positive on this, but my concern is we got a bunch of guys who we got Taylor back. Bobby ain't going to take the Charlotte job. And now we're looking at a bunch of guys who knew that and still decided to go try to get that bag because they didn't want no part. And that concerns me because, I've tried to convince myself that, here we go. We got an opportunity to be special. We got an opportunity to get the band back together, so to speak, and really get another year in Petrino's offense. And, T-Will's keeping all his guys. I mean, I may be wrong, but I ain't seen nobody that I've seen that would think would be a big return defensive player, in my opinion, that's left. But the offense is in shambles because just like y'all highlighted, we've lost Armstrong. We got two guys who are going to get a ton of volume next year, and they know who's come back, and they said, you know what, not for us. We don't want it. So my fear is this get the band back together that I was thinking that was kind of giving me a little bit of some positivity. I can't take that to the bank at all because we don't even know, are we going to get some starter from the Mountain West that's just a total beast? Or are we going to get somebody from D3 that they're going to try to sell us on as some type of savior? So I feel bad for the offense. I feel bad for Razorbacks fans because we don't have the kind of optimism that we should with everybody coming back because most of the guys that we would have depended on ain't coming back. So I know we got the transfer portal still out there, but man, I don't know. It's also an indictment on Taylor in some ways because those guys don't want to play with him again. And I think it's less about getting a bag. It is still about getting a bag, but it ain't like Razorback wouldn't have paid them nothing to stay. They don't want to play for the quarterback, sounds like, or the offensive coordinator. So I feel bad about that whole thing. It's hard to get pumped up, but I'll still live in the solace of the shame of a Razorback fan and our 5-5 future and be okay with it. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all.
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for calling in, RD.
It's the biggest thing that stands out to me about it too, man, is just the entire sell. If you were looking for optimism for another year of this was, all right, year two, Bobby's offense, got a bunch of guys coming back. Everybody knows it's a more complicated system. You're more comfortable in the scheme. You're playing more than thinking, whatever. But just having that part of it was a big part of the sell, and it's incredibly hard to sell that when all of those guys are gone. So it's almost like hitting reset and starting over.
The more I think about it, it's also just really tough that in the last 2 days you're losing two of your best players also, but guys that you've done favors for to try and ensure they would stay. I mean, obviously we covered the whole Kudus thing. They redshirted him, did right by him. They gave his little brother a scholarship. They literally did the package deal thing, and we're like, hey, yeah, man, come on, yeah, bring your little brother. It's all fine. Yeah, we'll let him return a kickoff one time, And so it's like Arkansas is like seemingly, I'm sure Arkansas thought like, hey, we're doing them some goodwill. Let's hope that they do us a solid in return. And look, we'll see how it plays out, and we never know what's going on with some of the stuff. There literally might have been as simple as someone just offered Luke a number that Arkansas couldn't match, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's definitely tough because, again, like going into the offseason, we had our doubts about, hey, could Arkansas have a good portal season? That was a question you could have even before all of this. Now that you're adding in all these players, it's just going to make it harder. So, we'll see. We'll see. There's plenty of time for Arkansas to kind of readjust, and we'll see what this offense looks like in April. But yeah, it is tough because that was the selling point, was keeping the continuity, trying to keep everything in order, keep everyone kind of rowing the same direction. And so just doesn't appear that Arkansas is going to be doing that now. Can they get better guys? They can. Everybody's fully capable. I mean, it's a new world we live in. In 2 weeks, they could have a completely different roster. But I remain a little bit skeptical that they're going to be able to make that happen.
Yeah. And Josh, I mean, we're not going to rehash the conversations we've been having for the last 37 minutes here. If you want to go back and listen to that, you can. If you don't, that's okay too. But I mean, you got to consider the position we're in here. Like Arkansas flips Madden Iamalieva, and we're calling it a good thing and a positive development and something to be excited about. And then we got a bunch of people telling us we're sunshine pumpers and idiots and, university mouthpieces and everything else. When they lose a returning starter and a key piece, and we say, hey, this isn't a good thing, then we're negativity pushers. We're doom and gloom. We hate Arkansas football. I mean, what do you want from us, man?
Yeah. And like I said, dude, it's very possible that Arkansas goes out there and gets a tight end who had more than 350 yards. That there's like 4 tight ends that entered the portal today. I'm sure Arkansas could get in the mix for at least one of them. It's not like they're incapable of replacing him, but it's just, again, it's something that you weren't planning to have to replace. And I know we all heard the smoke. We all felt like this was a chance. But again, when you just go into the offseason, you think of, all right, where do we need to assert our resources? Guard on the offensive line for Patrick Kudus was not one of those spots, and tight end for Luke Hasz was not one of those spots. Hell, we knew they had to recruit receivers, but we thought they were going to be recruiting receivers to play with Satania, not to replace Satania and replace Armstrong and replace Tesla and replace Broden, who you guys love. And so, look, I think it's definitely like not as much about losing Hasz. I don't know how everybody is reacting to this news and not wondering, like, hey, is Arkansas going to be able to get a good roster this offseason? Like, I'm very concerned about that.
I'll also point, I see a lot of people in the chat who are doing is Taylon Green making $1 million thing? First of all, nobody knows. Second of all, if he is, okay, I would challenge folks to go out and find me any SEC quarterbacks who aren't making $1 million at this point. Like, I know that's not really a needle mover for me personally. And if he's making more money this coming season than he did this past season, that's just kind of how it works. I mean, that doesn't do anything for me. Like, it doesn't make me feel any type of way personally.
No, well, I think 1 million would make Taylon one of the 4 or 5 lowest paid SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, Michigan's paying the kid who's never played in college $10 million. So
right. I mean, Texas is paying their backup quarterback like $5-6 million. So it's like, yeah, like there's a lot of teams that are spending. Like, I know $1 million is a lot of money. I'm not like trying to scoff at that. But like, yeah, Arkansas's been paying quarterbacks a lot of money the past few years, and that shouldn't disqualify you from going out there and building a good team.
Well,
and
also,
if you don't want to pay Taylon $1 million, you're gonna have to pay someone else more than $1 million to come and transfer to your school, or you're gonna have to take a chance on a very unproven, inexperienced guy.
Well, and I can say this, with confirmation: Taylon Green is not making $1 million. He is not. Don't worry, folks. So, because if he's making $1 million, that would be such a large part of the NIL that, is he going to make $1 million next year? We'll see, but I just think that there's no reason to believe he's making seven figures. So, and also, who cares how much he's making? Can he play or not? That's the thing I always will laugh about. I get it, because if it's now a little bit different, because if you've donated to the Arkansas Edge, you kind of feel like, hey, I'm paying for this player. And sometimes you may be, sometimes you may not be. But the idea of just like, oh, well, these players are making money, therefore we're overpaying them. Who cares? Can they play or not? If they can't play, they can't play. If they can, they can. Who cares how much you're making? I like this from Caleb. He says, KJ Jefferson was making over $500K when he was at Arkansas per a friend that worked at 103.7 The Buzz. Was it me? Was I your friend? Probably not. But Caleb, he was making that and then some. I'll put it another way, guys. Taylon Green is making significantly less than what KJ Jefferson was making. All right.
And
Fair
also the going rate has gone up. Like when KJ Jefferson was the quarterback in 2023, the price for a starting quarterback was lower than it is now. Mm-hmm. And next year, whoever Arkansas pays to be their quarterback is going to be making more than Taylon Green. Again, it's just kind of how these things work. There's
not going to be a time where big-time quarterbacks in college football are going to start making less than what they did the previous year. It's just going to be like coaching salaries. Coaches are not going to stop making. If you're I'm talking about elite level, they're not just going to suddenly be like, oh, Kirby Smart's going to start going back to making $5 million a year. Not happening. Just not happening. We'll do one final call, and then we'll get to some chats and also get into some other segments we got to jump into. But Jeremy is in Tulsa. Got about a minute. Jeremy, what you got?
Okay. Yeah. So thanks for having me. I just kind of want to get my thoughts on the program. Like, I think it's pretty evident that I feel like the program is broken at this point. I mean, we constantly have our AD, gaslighting us. I feel like Sam Pittman also, kind of talks tongue in cheek, like what's coach speak and what's not coach speak. Like you guys bring up a good point, like the cutest thing yesterday. Also, like the revenue sharing is going to, build this championship roster. He hopes that it's going to build this championship roster. Like that's not how this works. Just because you get more money and everybody else gets more money doesn't mean that you're going to be able to buy people or pay for players that other teams are able to pay for as well and probably offer more money. And it's also, Sam Pittman, he gaslights the media for, saying, well, when you ask me about my job that hurts recruiting, like them asking those questions and doing their job on speaking on behalf of the fans and asking the questions everybody else wants to know the answers to is not costing you in recruiting. You know what costs you in recruiting? 29-31 over 5 seasons at Arkansas, losing record. 14-28 in the SEC, way losing record. 7-17 in 1-score games, losing record. Those are the things that cost you in recruiting. And quite frankly, blame these kids for wanting to leave. If my son was Luke Hasz, I would probably counsel him and say, okay, Arkansas is going to probably be bad next year again. You can go get more money at another school. And optimistic next year's schedule, 5-7, is that a success in year 6? So I just feel like it's evident at this point, and Sam Pittman has told us with his own mouth, he doesn't know what he's doing multiple times, not just on one occasion, multiple times. So I had to go through that pretty quickly since I only had a minute, but I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Jeremy. And I see what you're saying too, because there's a lot of people that feel the same way and I'm one of those. Yeah, you can sit here and say NIL, and it is a major factor, but also kids still want to win. They still want to go to a school where they can have success and get to the next level and get to the NFL. And right now, Arkansas doesn't really showcase that. They don't really showcase winning. They don't really showcase of getting guys to the next level, getting guys into the NFL and getting drafted. Just doesn't seem to be the case right now. So either way. But yeah, we, again, appreciate everybody jumping into this and talking about, of course, the news of Luke Hasz entering into the transfer portal and everything. What a fun time right now with all the craziness. Portal doesn't even open yet. It's opens up Monday officially. So still got a lot of time to get through there too. So, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into, if I can find it. Oh yeah. Your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Hey, the Ladybacks won yesterday. Yeah. SEC ACC Challenge beat Boston College. So that's cool. I will say the main reason I brought it up, I didn't know this was a stat that anyone was keeping up, but apparently Higginbottom scored a career-high 38 points, which is the most in 30 years in the SEC, most points without hitting a 3. So, for what that's worth.
She seems to be very good.
Yeah.
If nothing else. Every single email that they send about when they lose those games, it'll be like, Higginbottom scores 27, Hogs lose by 20. Higginbottom scores 22 or whatever. So good to see her have a big game and it leads to a win. That's not worth nothing. Hey, the SEC ACC Challenge, Arkansas dominates it no matter what.
I wanted to say this is the first time that they've won both men and women's, though. I could be wrong, but because Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken, Arkansas never won a road SEC Big 12 challenge or a road SEC Big East challenge. So this is since they beat Miami in this year, that was the first time they actually did it. So it's just I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds right. And also, I wanted to throw this out there, guys. I know we hung out last night, which was awesome. It was a lot of fun and just shooting the breeze a little bit. But the Lions and Packers played a game last night. Jake Bates hit the game-winning field goal. And I just wanted to play this video really quick because Dan Campbell's awesome. And it was really funny to see this because it has two Razorbacks in it. Not only Jake Bates, but also Dan Skipper in a funny regard.
I told you you'd never forget this game. You will never forget this game. We don't have to talk about how tough we are. We don't have to talk about how resilient we are. We live it, man. We've been living it. Where's our defense at? Offense, that's a way to step up, man. That's a way to step up. There you go, Skip. Keep throwing up, whatever you're doing over there.
It's one fun. Skipper's like puking over here. Like he's doing the game-winning speech and everything. So just awesome stuff there for him being there too. But he starts giving his game balls out, and of course, how do you not if you're not only a Razorback fan, but seeing the success story of
all the stats you need is he won the freaking game again. Jake Bates.
Hey, I freaking love you guys, man. Let's get 13 next week. Yes,
that's all it was. What a heck of a speech. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Let's get 13 next week.
First time I've heard him speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't speak too often, but when he does.
Clearly you weren't buying bricks in the last year or so, or else you would have been able to hear him speak.
Yeah. Again, I've root for any of the former Hogs, but just cool to see like Jake Bates and that story. And being at Detroit of all teams too, makes it really nice.
They're a fun team, man. What are they, 12-1 now? I think they're officially the Super Bowl favorites as of like the last week or so. They're like the best story in the NFL right now, man. Mm-hmm. I was looking at the details of the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade the other day, and like what the Lions turned that into is like 9 guys that have like completely changed their roster. And so it's like one of those weird trades that kind of worked out for both teams because the Rams won a Super Bowl with Stafford, but the Lions might win a Super Bowl this year. It's good for Dan Campbell, man. He's a fun guy to cheer for.
Mm-hmm. It's also kind of weird too because every time I see Matthew Stafford, I'm like, he's still playing? It's like, yep, he's still playing, still out there. Graduated high school, I believe 2008 was when he graduated high school. No, that can't be right. Or is it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it's cool to see former Hogs go out there and have some success to go on with it too. Okay, a few of your chats real quick, folks. This comes from JB, says, are there any portal guys that we are on that could be excited that we are aware of? I tell you what, JB, because the portal hasn't officially opened yet, it's what all next week is going to be about for us. I know we're going to be on top of any players entering in, but since the portal opens up next week, we'll have some things to talk about, players to watch, some connections,
some ammo.
yeah, you got to do that. But I will say though, one that happened last night that I called a shot, I'm pretty confident in it, is Auburn true freshman defensive lineman TJ Lindsey, who's from Arkansas, has entered into the portal. I think that's a pretty good connection there where Arkansas might be in the running there. So there's one. There's your one.
Your Satania replacement's visiting on the 11th. Raylan Sharp, Fresno State. So that's good. Yeah.
It's going to happen, folks. Again,
I'll give you one as well, just so you get one from all of us. I really like the Taro guy from Ball State. I know that I pronounced his name wrong. I don't even know how it's spelled. It's every time I look at it, I feel like it changes a little bit. But Ball State has an offensive tackle that it seems like Arkansas is going to at least make a run at. Ball State also had a tight end enter today. There was like 4 tight ends. Today was tight end portal day. There was like 7 tight ends, obviously, including Luke Hasz. And so, now it seems like Arkansas desperately needs a tight end. So I'd imagine they'll be in the mix for a lot of those guys. But I'd say in the next 7 days, we'll start hearing a lot more buzz about teams being connected to certain guys. But I've seen a lot of the high level guys, like the big time guys. I see a lot of lists that do not include Arkansas.
Also, shout out to appreciate the super chat from Dylan. Says, great work, boys. Love the show as always. Shout out to them Lions. Thank you. We appreciate you, man. and appreciate you checking in and listening in. Rainey, who's always fun on Twitter, she says, and it kind of makes up an interesting point. She says, we're not losing key defensive players. We're losing offensive players. That seems more reflective on the OC offensive staff, maybe quarterback. If it was 100% on Pittman and players' view on Sam Pittman, we'd be losing top defensive players as well, which is a good point. But I will also say, Rainey, that if you remember last year, the majority of the players you lost came from the defensive side. Like you lost the entire linebacker room. You eventually lost Snacks Johnson. You lost, I'm trying to remember, what was the D lineman that they lost into the portal? Oh, man, what was his name? It wasn't Tank Booker.
I'm trying to think.
Well, it wasn't Tank Booker, was it? Or did he enter in the portal?
Booker did. He went to
yeah.
Okay.
Was Dominic last year or was he the year before?
He was the year before. Yeah. He's out of eligibility surely now, right?
Gotta be. I mean, he played a lot of college football. And yeah, it's hard to deny, like looking at the cause and effect and kind of just starting to draw your own conclusions. But I will say, like, there's a lot of nuance to this. Whereas, like, we always see these things. We see, okay, Satania enters the portal. It must be because of blank. Oh, Kudus enters the portal. It must be because of blank. When really, like you said earlier, John, like, it's every type of variable possible. All these players don't just make these decisions on a whim. They're sitting there talking with their families, scheme fit, how they feel about the coaching staff, how they feel the players, where their girlfriend goes to school, money, obviously. Like there's a lot. There's no shortage of factors. And so, yeah, I think it's one of those things that we'll just have to see how it plays out. I saw someone earlier that pointed out that, last year we were kind of doing the panic button on the linebackers because you lose 4 of them, and that ended up being okay. And so, like, it's very possible Arkansas could do something similar with the tight end room. And it's not like tight end is a super position of need, but it is always tough to like see a trend and wonder if it has anything to do with the coach or the quarterback or whatever.
And we'll react to additions when additions happen. Right now, subtractions are happening. So naturally, that's what we would react to.
Yep. Right. And you trust me, I'm going to make sure everybody, you guys get hyped for some of these big time additions they're going to have. Be like, hey, listen, you see the size of this guy? See the size of this wide receiver? 6'4", 200 pounds. How can he not be great? I mean, come on. What are we doing here? So, yeah.
I will say, I told Curtis this yesterday. I really appreciate that Raylan Sharp tweets out like live updates of his recruitment like every 20 minutes. He's given us the exact day he's recruiting or he's coming to Arkansas. He's given us every school that's offered him, so we know who Arkansas is competing against. We've seen footage of his highlights. Like he every 20 minutes he tweets something about his recruitment. So when he's ready to come to Arkansas, we will know.
Could you imagine if every player did that? Just gave out a schedule to the public of like, here's what's going on in my life. I'm visiting here, and this is what I'm thinking when I visit here, and here's what I'm going to be looking for. Just that would be so nice, but that's just not ever going to happen. Hogwild Pointing just says, got Wendy's chili that gave me no spoon.
That's tough.
That is a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't know how you recover.
That's something you really want to sip on, I don't think.
I bet Wendy's chili would smack right about now.
Yeah. The question is, do you get the hot sauce packets and do you put those in for the additional kick? Who knows? But sorry about that, Hogwild. Hopefully your day gets better. It's just, I love this place. Kingsley says, what if we aren't losing players as much as restructuring the offense to match Bobby? Again, not saying that's absolutely it, but makes it just about as much sense as the sky is falling, maybe even more.
Listen, I could get the whole like processing mindset if we were seeing like Rodney Hill and like like a Davion Dozier type of guy, like these guys where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to make room for other guys. I don't think if Arkansas wanted to restructure the offense, they would get rid of their best offensive lineman, their best receiver, and their best tight end. Because I mean, like what offense are you running that can't use Patrick Kudus? What offense are you running that can't use Luke Hasz, who is a pretty well-rounded? I mean, people always, have a lot to say about his skill set. He's pretty well-rounded. He's a really good blocker and their best pass-catching tight end. So it's like, what offense would you be running that doesn't include Luke Hasz? What offense would you run that doesn't include Isaiah Satania? I don't know. And then again, we'll see who they bring in. So if they bring in a ton of like top-notch guys, it'll be a lot easier to kind of make that case. But as it stands today, I don't know if I can quite get behind that.
No, I can't either. Because again, it's like you said, an offensive lineman, a great offensive lineman is a great offensive lineman. Like that doesn't matter what system you're in. Same thing with a wide receiver. If you're a great wide receiver, and one thing that Bobby Petrino, this is one of the things I've always liked about him, is that he has, most cases, always made sure that, hey, if I got a great player, I'm going to make sure I give him the ball. And kind of didn't really do that this year with the tight end position or anything. But the point is that if you have great players and you're a good offensive coordinator, you'll find ways to make it work, regardless of your system. You'll just find ways to make it work. But I get what you're saying too.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. A few more chats here, and we'll continue on because we got a big weekend to discuss. A lot of good stuff going on there. Actually, you know what? I'm done with the chat. You guys are arguing about too much stupid stuff. So we're going to put you all on timeout for a little bit here or there too. So we'll say, though, that got a little Razorback basketball action tomorrow night, returning after that big win against Miami. UTSA coming to town, Bud Walton Arena. Going to be an early afternoon action game. I don't know if you guys feel this way. I feel like, when was the last time Arkansas played on a Saturday? Have they played on a Saturday at home this season? Because if they have, it doesn't feel like they have.
At home, I don't think so.
Yeah. So it's going to be weird, but also hopefully a lot of fun. But should be interesting to see how this team not bounces back, but do they build upon what they did down there at Miami and start trying to figure it out, because they better not overlook the UTSA Roadrunners trying to look at that Michigan game up in Madison Square Garden on Tuesday night. So they got to make sure they get it done in this game.
It's a trap game. I mean, it is.
Yeah, I know.
Very
I agree.
clearly. Yeah, like by the definition of a trap game is exactly what this is. So they better come ready to play.
Would you have rather this game be on Friday? I know they were obviously in Miami Tuesday night, but with just it being Saturday and then you're immediately playing on Tuesday in New York, like, wouldn't it have kind of made sense for this game to be on Friday?
Sure. I'd have been cool with that.
Okay. Well, would have been good. Also, shout out to Nobu. He said, retweet me, guys. I'm about to do a GIF dump self-therapy. I'm not doing that. So whatever it is that you're putting out, I don't even want to see it. I don't care. Whatever it is, I'm not retweeting it, but appreciate the super chat regardless.
We see it all. We do see it all, and we appreciate most of it. But I also need you to understand why we can't retweet all of it.
Yes. Yeah. There's some things that we just won't do, and that things that we can't do. And that's one of them. But appreciate, again, the super chat regardless, no matter what. All right. So looking ahead into also a weekend of SEC title game, and get to a little SEC update sponsored by Rhoback. And we know it's the holiday season, looking for some great gifts to give to the fam, get you some Razorback gear, as well as some incredible outfits and incredible different apparel items with Rhoback. If you go to Rhoback.com, you can use promo code HOGSBY20. You'll get 20% off your very first purchase. Again, HOGSBY20, get you 20% off. And that's on hoodies, shorts, quarter zips, polos, joggers, everything. So check it out today at Rhoback.com using promo code HOGSBY20. So guys, SEC championship game this weekend. You got a very first of the Texas Longhorns. It's their first year in the SEC, and it'll be in the SEC title game and a rematch against the Georgia Bulldogs. And this one is going to be on ABC at 3 p.m. According to Bet Saracen, Texas is favored by 2.5 points in this game. Don't know how I feel about that, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. Anytime two teams play each other again in the title game, it's always going to be good.
Yeah. I don't know. I've kind of been feeling Texas all week. I don't know why I feel that way, besides like it's hard to beat a team twice, but they're so far removed from that maybe it doesn't even really matter. And then I look at Georgia in some of their games recently, like the Georgia Tech thing was a wild game, by the way. But it just doesn't feel like they're like firing on all cylinders, even this deep into the year. But then at the same time, I look at Texas and they keep winning these games. Like they weren't that impressive against Arkansas. It was a really good win at Texas A&M, but they score 17 points or something? So like they're not really throttling anybody either. I'm having a hard time getting a really good feel for this one. I'm probably going to lean Texas, although I hope they lose. I think I need to make sure that I qualify that. I hope they get beat, but I kind of think that they're going to win.
Yeah, Texas has been kind of Georgia-ing teams, kind of just leaning on them, just out-physicaling them. Their defense is a problem. It's very good. But it is funny that when they ran into Georgia, they got Georgia'd, And so I think there's definitely it's very weird to see a team favored on a neutral site against a team that beat them pretty thoroughly at their place. Now, that was a long time ago, but I'm kind of with you guys. Even though there's a lot that kind of points to Georgia, I just feel like this is kind of Texas's year. I think Texas is a really talented team, man. I think they have a much better quarterback that I trust a little bit more. They've got a lot of good vibes with that Texas team right now. I feel like they're really good, but I also feel like they haven't played they haven't peaked yet. Like they've been just kind of slowly building, and I feel like they've been playing better ball down the stretch than Georgia.
I'm also feeling this, like, I get what you're saying, which beating a team twice in one season is almost impossible, it feels like, in college football, because it doesn't happen too often anyways. But now with no divisions in the SEC, now with 12 teams in the playoffs, probably going to see it a lot more often these days of teams getting rematches. So it'll be interesting to see what the correlation is as far as if teams go 2-0 or 1-1 or however it is. But the only thing about Georgia that I kind of like in this game is that last week when they just got by the hairs of their chinny chin over Georgia Tech, I'm like, if they would have blown out Georgia Tech, I might be like, all right, it's feeling a little different. But Kirby Smart, Georgia, and knowing what's really at stake, because if they lose this game, of course, who knows in these day and ages of what the playoff's going to look like, but there's a chance they could get bounced out of the playoff. Texas, I think, is still in no matter if they lose. So I don't know. The motivation is definitely on Georgia's side in this. But then Texas wants to get a win after losing that game. I don't know. I just want a good football game. Hopefully it's, decent and high scoring and a lot of fun because both teams are really good. But, man, it's going to be chaos, just absolute chaos in this when it comes to what the playoff committee is going to do and what it's all going to look like in the automatic bid. That's the nice thing. The automatic bid of all these games, too. It's going to be great. So
they might play a third time, in a couple of weeks. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I was just about to say we could be setting the stage for our first ever trilogy, our college football trilogy, to decide the national champion. Are these the two best teams in the country? I mean, Oregon is obviously number one; like they've earned that ranking. But like, I think that's very possible, though. I think I wouldn't be stunned at all if these two teams end up. I don't know how the seeding would work out. I guess they'd have to align right, but I wouldn't be stunned at all if these two teams end up being there at the end.
I wouldn't be either. If they play 3 times, that'd be hilarious. Just getting tired of each other, but never happens in college football. That would be a first, at least. We've seen rematches before in 2 games, but 3 games, man. I'm betting on Georgia in this one. I'm taking Georgia plus 2.5 on that one too. So, but we'll see. It'll be a good game there in hot Atlanta. Which there was some stat that I was gonna share, but then I forgot. But either way, another little part of the SEC update, guys. You remember Texas? Speaking of, where the bottles got thrown on the field. Remember all that craziness that happened? Yeah, well, according to the Associated Press, the University of Texas investigation has been completed into the bottle throwing incident against Georgia and has resulted in no one being caught or punished. Great.
Okay.
So what did you investigate where you couldn't get one person, one positive identification? Did you even investigate? How could you investigate if you didn't get one person? Come on now.
Remember when they were sending the fake text messages? Was that for that game or was that a different one?
I think it was that game. Yeah. And I guess we can determine now they had to be fake, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. Unless it was a test of like, maybe we'll get them to come clean if they said that they did do it, and they'll say, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Maybe, probably not though. But I just really laughed because we investigated this and nothing happened. Great. Sounds like you're just as good as the NCAA in doing your job. Yeah. It's like punishing teams and whatnot. Jeez. Well, the fact that Texas did it themselves, what are they going to do? Like, do you think that they're really going to go through and be thorough and ban certain kids from throwing bottles for life or from Texas games forever? It's not going to happen. So anyways, that was just a little funny update there. And also, college basketball action, which I know the SEC ACC Challenge officially came to an end, which was a whole lot of fun, but still some good basketball games happening this weekend. Not really, but there is one. UTSA in Arkansas, we know, is going to be happening at 1 p.m. there at Bud Walton Arena. They got the battle of somewhat of the directional Carolinas, of East Carolina versus South Carolina. That one's also at 1 o'clock. Alcorn State versus Oklahoma is happening at 7 o'clock. And cannot forget, one of the big games everyone needs to watch is the Fighting Curtis Wilkersons taking on Ole Miss as Lindenwood travels down there to Oxford, as Ole Miss is ranked 23rd in the country. So
I'm sure that's going to go well for the Lions.
We got Lindenwood in Bud Walton.
God, man. I mean, they played, I think they played Oklahoma in their opener, and they were at Mizzou the other day, and now they're playing in Ole Miss. So why not? Yeah, give them the Bud.
That'd be so great. Like, do you have any? You still have some Lindenwood apparel, don't you, Curtis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to. When we go ahead and hang out tomorrow for the fights, if they win, you have to wear it. I guess it'd be during the fights, so never mind. But
I might wear it just because of that.
I may, dude. If Lindenwood wins, I will buy a Lindenwood shirt.
Okay, there was a we talked about this last night, but not to the people. There was a point in time in that Missouri game last week. It was late in the first half. They went on a run and they tied it. And just the way the game was shaping up, I was like, oh, maybe they get them. There's nothing on this planet right now that would have made me happier than the old alma mater winning at Missouri. That would have been electric. But then they lost by a lot, so it doesn't matter. Fun first half, though. Ole Miss is going to beat the hell out of them.
Every game Missouri plays is like a blown lead by somebody.
Yeah, that is true.
2 massive leads, and then also had 2 like ridiculous comebacks.
No doubt. Who the hell did they play the other day in the ACC thing?
It was Boston College, wasn't it?
No. Cal. It was Cal.
Oh, that's right. Cal. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I looked up and Cal's win that game by like 15. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then they scored damn near 70 points in the second half. But yeah, you're right, man. It's like that.
Can't believe I missed out on that Missouri Cal game. The battle of the Connor Vanover former schools that aren't Arkansas.
Jesus.
Or Oral Roberts.
Not Oral Roberts either.
Yeah.
They should have had Arkansas and Oral Roberts play in like have a little semifinal thing.
Yeah. Should just all the teams that Connor Vanover played for. But yeah, that's it. But then at 9:00, the late window, ESPN2, Kentucky versus Gonzaga, there for the Battle of Seattle in Seattle, Washington. So Kentucky got their first L of the season, and going to see how they bounce back against the really good Gonzaga team.
Now they're going to have their first losing streak of the season. That's crazy. Dang. Can't believe it, man. I want to say something about UTSA for folks who are going to watch that game or whatever. And one, check out the preview. We put the preview out this morning. My goal was then to come Saturday morning with just some reaction to the preview press conference. That ain't happening. I don't think that's going to be a thing anymore. So we don't have that. We got something else. But Primo Spears is the best player for UTSA. He was at Duquesne, then he was at Georgetown, then he was at Florida State. He's like one of those guys. He's averaged double figures everywhere he goes. He's averaging 24 points per game. He takes 20 shots per game. The dude is a freaking chucker. So you'll have one player on the opposing team that's electric, and the dude's going to be letting it freaking fly. He's got to be leading the country in shot attempts. It's insane.
This is the kind of game that if Muss were the coach, Arkansas would dominate like with no question, because you know how good Muss was in non-conference play at shutting down the one good guy. He's like, hey, we put a star on his name in warmups or whatever. He was always really good, especially in non-conference play, at shutting down whoever the team's best player was, especially like this time of year. So yeah, he would have definitely clamped that guy and had him go 3 for 20.
It'd just be nice. Again, you got the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. That was the last home game for Arkansas, right? Was UMES, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So make that into a winning streak where you play really well and you dominate a team you should. Do that. Let's make that a thing, because that would be really nice for tomorrow.
Score 100 tomorrow.
Ooh.
100.
Gonna bet the over in that? What's the you check Bet Saracen, see what the over under and the spread is in that game.
Good call. It was 19 the last time I looked, but I think that was last night. I don't know about the over under though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 101.75.
I love that. I'd be really happy with that.
And how do they get their points? They just get hot from 3, or just sheer efficiency from the field?
I think Arkansas will make like a modest like 9 of 20, like one of those like efficient but not a high volume 3-point situations. But I just think Arkansas is going to be able to get whatever they want. They'll hit their threes early and they'll attack closeouts well. I think UTSA is like 275th in the country in adjusted defense.
They're giving up like 80 a game.
Year one, lot of new pieces. I feel like Arkansas could get things going offensively, or they should get things going offensively.
Well, according to Bet Saracen, there is no over-under. It has not been put up. So, but minus 19, Arkansas is right now.
Kind of a weird team because like they lost by, I think, 14 or something to Troy. They lost by 17 to Little Rock, and those are teams Arkansas beat by double digits, but then they turned around the other day and they went to overtime at St. Mary's. So, like, they're capable. But, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not betting on Razorback basketball. I'm still pissed at Aduthi Arrow for missing both those freaking free throws against Miami.
That was tough, man.
Jerk. Yeah. Like what a jerk.
Lost in the road win and the comeback and the execution down the stretch was those 2 missed free throws, dude.
Horrible. And I have so many examples of that happening only with Razorback basketball. And I'll never forget 2 years, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, where Arkansas played, oh man, which team was it? It was the year that Darian Ford was on the team, and it was a non-conference game. It was like Long Island State or something. But anyways, it was 16.5 was the spread, and I bet the other team at plus 16.5. And Darian Ford, game was over. They stopped playing defense, and he goes up and dunks it for a freaking 17-point victory. And I just wanted to fight him. I wanted
Fairly
to just
certain I remember that. Yeah.
I was so mad. Like, because that was something I actually put some serious dough on too. And I was going to really make out like a bandit. Just makes me mad. Anyways, I hate sports betting. I'm not very good at it. So
hey, you like the fighting Barry Odoms tonight?
I love the fighting Barry Odoms tonight. Money line.
Is that what you hit, Andrew?
I haven't done it yet, but I will do it. Guys, y'all know what Gene T did against them the last time? He had like 128 yards, but it was 3.9 yards a carry. Okay. They really kind of slowed him down. And Boise State's quarterback actually had a really good game in that one. And he was kind of the reason they won. I think it was like 27-24 or something like that. I think Barry Odom's boys can get him.
Is this a neutral field championship game? Or are they playing it at Boise? Do we know what that looks like? I mean, I guess I could look it up as easy as anybody, but yeah, I do though. I like the fighting Odoms here.
I do too.
What is it, like 4.5 is the spread?
Yeah, and that creates
4.5
zone right there.
Yeah,
it's in Boise, by the way. Okay. It's in Albertson Stadium up in Boise. 7 o'clock on Fox tonight.
Who do y'all think will take over Taylon's? You know, he's the defending champ of the Mountain West Championship game because he was the MVP last year. Who do you think will take that mantle this year?
Well, if you're asking me, if you're asking me, I'm thinking it's going to be
the Heisman runner-up.
No, I'm going with the guy I can't pronounce his name because that's everybody these days. Hasz Williams, the quarterback for UNLV.
Hey,
he's going to get it done.
UNLV's receiver Ricky White. Love that guy. I think he's got like 1,000 yards for them this year. It was like first team all conference. He also blocked 4 punts. Have y'all seen this? He was the special teams player of the year in the conference because he blocked 4 punts. And this isn't just like some, this is their leading receiver who also has like 1,000 yards, also blocked 4 punts. It's like unreal.
Put him in the Heisman.
I mean, two-way talent is what everyone's looking for these days. How about that? But yeah, I really genuinely like UNLV. Their offensive coordinator, by the way, Marion. I know last year he was a huge name. He's got to get some type of big job this year, right?
I mean, it's at least a bigger coordinator position, like some major school.
Especially if they win today and wind up in the playoff, man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They got to do that. I'll say this and I know I have a good friendship with him, but shout out to Barry Odom this year, guys. Like, he lost his starting quarterback at the beginning of the year because of an NIL thing, which not only losing your starting quarterback's huge, but that could have caused some serious problems with the team, within the program, all that. And the dude still went 10-2 and is playing in for another Mountain West title. That's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. And also, this kid is good. They got his QB in for him now. He's really good. And I only watched a full one of their games with the other guy. And I guess it could just have been because Kansas's defense was really good. And I know they kind of got on a tear here late in the year, so maybe it was. But like that, the kid couldn't throw. Like, he just couldn't. It was one of those situations where they just would not allow him to do it because they were worried about him turning it over and stuff. And then he dipped, and now all of a sudden they're slinging it for 500 yards a game. So I don't know, but it seems like maybe an upgrade or blessing in disguise or whatever.
I forgot where the Sluka kid came from, like Albany or something like that. But they brought in him, and Haj Malik came from Campbell. So they brought in 2 grad transfers, and I guess Sluka won the job in camp. But you remember whenever he left, everybody on the team started tweeting and retweeting. It seemed like one of those things that it kind of ignited the locker room a little bit, where they all kind of liked this guy, and clearly it worked out for him.
Yeah, Holy Cross, good call, Aaron.
Holy Cross, yeah. I think he was completing 47% of his passes when he went and tried to strong arm the coaching staff into getting a bigger deal. Bold move.
Well, it's also funny too, guys, because again, conference championship, we're going to have them all this weekend. But are you surprised that there's only one conference championship that's sponsored? I am a little bit.
Dr. Pepper still got it.
Still got the Big 12, but that's the only sponsored conference championship game. So,
are we going to see the Chest Pass challenge?
Oh my gosh, that thing's gotten out of hand. Like I get it, but I don't know. I like people who complain about the way that they throw it. I'm like, okay, then make the rules. All you gotta do is just make the rules to where you have to throw it with one hand, and then everybody does it. But just people who always complain about that every year is so annoying. So, but yeah, gonna do that challenge. That game's at 11 a.m. So you'll God, Iowa State and Arizona State in the Big 12 title game. It just sounds like so strange.
The least watchable championship game I can ever recall. I mean, obviously their fan bases are super pumped for it, but just from a national perspective, who is excited about that?
I don't know.
No, that would be like the NBA title being like the Pacers versus the Kings or something like that, where it'd just be like, who the hell is going to watch this?
Well, I just wonder, like, I think Arizona State, all I think is just party school and everything. These guys are coming off of a bender. These students are like, oh, holy crap, we're in the Big 12 title game? Oh, man, hey Charlie, let's get over there real quick, dude. Let's go over down to Arlington. And it's going to be weird seeing Arizona State there. But
if you're going to have this, you got to have either Arizona State or Iowa State kind of being the the underdog that's playing the established. I don't even know what that is in the Big 12 at this point, but actually, I guess they can't do that, can they? I mean, who would that be? So, I don't know.
Yeah, Baylor.
Texas and Oklahoma ain't walking back through that door. So
and Oklahoma State sucks. So yeah, you really, really are out of options.
Yeah.
Well, and I know we talked about it earlier in the season, guys, but I think it's cool. But in the 4 championship games of the Power 4 conferences on Saturday, each one of them has a representative of a first-year member in the conference championship. Arizona State, first year in the Big 12. You got Texas in the SEC. You got Oregon in the Big 10. And you got SMU in the ACC. That, to me, I think is the most insane part of it. Like, if you told me Texas was going to be in it, yeah, okay. Same thing with Oregon. Okay. But Arizona State, SMU, would have never seen those two teams representing the conferences of the ACC and the Big 12.
Specifically Arizona State. Y'all remember in week 2 when they beat Mississippi State by like 12? And we were like, wow, Mississippi State really sucks. Turns out
7.
That was like their best performance of the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by 7.
I'm having a hard time with this ACC championship game because I genuinely like and root for Rhett Lashley and SMU. I think it's a cool story, but I also want them to lose because that's the only pathway to Bama not getting in. So it's hard for me to get on the Dabo train, but I might have to go that route for this game. I don't know.
That's disgusting. Shout out to Rhett Lashley and Gus Miles on both. I'm glad that some football coaches with ties to the state of Arkansas put out some type of message for our guy Bob Holt.
Yeah. Brett did. I saw Kirby Smart said something, I think, on his midweek Zoom or his pre-SEC championship Zoom. So yeah, that was
Dude,
good.
And then I loved it. Seeing Dave Van Horn tweet, which Dave Van Horn does not tweet, but seeing him put out there was pretty cool.
Freaks me out because I've got his noties on, and he tweets like once a year where he's out just like mowing the field or something, and then that's like
I would say it's about 3 per year. Sometimes he'll like tweet out the GPA. Sometimes he'll thank the grounds crew or like Mother's Day or like he'll have just like but it's about 3 per year. So him getting a tweet out there was good. And I knew he would.
Yeah. And Phil, you're right. I saw that from Daniel Musselman. It was cool. And Eric Musselman was that was a really good, nice gesture too. So it was good to see.
It was awesome seeing the outpouring of love for Bob yesterday. Man, what was I gonna say about the Dave Van Horn? Oh, I can't say it. I'll tell you guys a story off the air about Dave Van Horn on Twitter. It's really funny.
Whoa.
Okay.
It's pretty good stuff. I just I can't out my sauces, so that would be problematic. But still, I'm feeling UNLV tonight at +4.5, and for the other games too in the conference championship slate. I guess I should have mentioned these, but Arizona State's favored by 1.5 over Iowa State. I already said Texas 2.5. Oregon's 3.
The best game.
The Tulane Army game tonight?
Oh, yeah. That's the best game tonight.
Tulane by 5. Favored by 5 in this one. In the American Athletic Championship inside of West Point, New York.
So, okay, I need to ask you guys about this because I was actually wondering I was looking at this at about 11 o'clock this morning. I was trying to figure it out. Army and Navy play next week. So, like, Army's 10-1. Say Army was 11-0. And then they won against Tulane today. What would they do about the Army-Navy game? Like, would they just be like, all right, Army's in the playoff, and then they're going to play next week. We'll see what like. what would have happened? And we were very close to it being a reality.
I don't know how that would work, but it just shows you that college football, that's one of those traditions you can't mess with. Like you cannot mess with the Army-Navy game being in week 15 or whatever they call it and being by itself and being at on CBS at 2:00, just can't mess with. So I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't count. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they're just like not a preseason game, but like a postseason exhibition game. I don't know. I don't really know how that works.
Week, right? Like historically, it's been the same week as the conference titles.
No, it's always been by itself the week after. But those teams were never involved with the BCS or the playoff four, so it didn't matter. But yeah, no, it's always been by itself, the only college football game. So glad to keep that tradition going because it's really cool. I love that game. Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. And also, sorry, the other spreads: Oregon 3.5 over Penn State, and SMU's 2.5 point favorites over Clemson. I will say, I really want Oregon to win. I really hate James Franklin. I really don't like that dude. I never really have. And
he's a next level scumbag for sure.
I just don't like him. And I used to when he was at Vanderbilt. I'm like, dude, this is a cool story. He's got everybody hyped up, but he's been at Penn State and he's just been a heel for whatever reason. Just really annoying. So,
well, he does not win games like this.
No, he doesn't.
Like anytime he's been in a position to win a game of any type of magnitude, he hasn't done it. So,
do you want to know, or can you guys say or guess what his best win at Penn State is this season?
Indiana?
USC?
No, they didn't play Indiana. Shit, I don't know.
No. Well, USC is a good win, but no, their best one is beating Bielema in Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty, it was an ugly one, wasn't it? Or no, did they beat him pretty good?
It's 21-7.
Okay. So yeah, pretty ugly. Yeah, I lost a lot of money on that USC game. I had USC money line and they were up like 27-10 or something like that and blew it.
Yeah, Minnesota, they only beat Minnesota by 1. That was a crazy game. Row the boat. Whatever that guy's name. I always forget it.
PJ Fleck. Yeah.
PJ Fleck. Yes, that's correct.
I really want
the Joker.
I do want Oregon to win, though. You got to have an undefeated team in there.
Yeah. Makes it more fun.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
It is. It also is funny because y'all remember back in week 1 and week 2 when Oregon, they tried to lose to somebody stupid,
like Idaho or something weird.
Yeah. 24-14 Idaho.
And then they beat Boise State by like 3. Yep. Like it was like 45-42. And everyone was like, dude, Oregon's so shaky. Like they might not be very good. Turns out Boise State might be the team they face in the damn Natty.
Yeah.
And also Oregon's the most foolproof champion team we got.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, that I'll never forget Will Howard's dumb self in that Oregon and Ohio State game where they had a timeout to get a field goal and he ran with the ball. And time expired. Like just mind-blowing stuff right there. So, yeah, I'm excited. I know it's crazy, guys. Regular season college football came to an end. And we got still conference championships, still got some bowl games. We'll know where Arkansas is going on Sunday, right? So,
live stream.
Woo! Heck yeah. See,
I was literally thinking like, maybe we should. But
no,
I mean,
100%.
I hadn't thought about it until right this second. But yeah, let's do it.
It's going to be fun to just talk about and break down Arkansas versus Rutgers going to Birmingham. I can't wait. I cannot wait. What was the latest bowl projections for Arkansas? I meant to look those up earlier this week.
Birmingham. I think it's Arkansas might be a lock for the Birmingham Bowl at this point.
Just all the predictions is Arkansas in Birmingham. Make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, if Bama gets bumped out of the playoffs, then it's Birmingham almost certainly. If they're then maybe something a little better.
And we talked about it last night. We were hanging out. I know I'm going, and I think we're all going to go because, at least for me, I'm not going because I'm expecting some great thing. I've never been to the Birmingham Bowl, so just cross it off the list.
Yeah,
as long as it's not Liberty, just God help us.
Not everything on the bucket list has to be crazy,
The only Birmingham Bowl I've been to is that Mexican place that had the chips and queso.
Yeah.
Jeez. I will say, though, that CBS Sports at least has Arkansas in the Gasparilla Bowl against Tulane. So
there you go.
For what that's worth. But
Tulane would beat Arkansas by 2 touchdowns. Minimum.
I would have.
Especially, given their circumstances now.
Sheesh. Yeah. That game would mean a little bit more to Tulane than it would Arkansas. I will say Tulane has one of the coolest color schemes to me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool thing. Also, okay, I was just going to bring this up because another one from 24/7 Sports has Arkansas in the Birmingham Bowl versus Boston College and Bill O'Brien. So
there you go.
It's different. It's not,
Boston College and UMass or whatever played every other SEC team. Why not just throw Arkansas in there into the mix? So it'll be pretty fun, though. It's going to be a great weekend.
Arkansas beats Boston College, then, never mind. I was going to do this whole bit about how if Arkansas had beaten Missouri and then beaten Boston College, we could have really argued that Arkansas had a better season, but Arkansas, in fact, did not beat Missouri, so it's out the window. And they'd probably lose to Boston College, so.
Is there anything that can happen in that bowl game for any sort of like feeling of one way or the other on anything with Razorback sports? No.
I don't think so.
Like, I guess if they get blown out by like Tulane.
Oh yeah, I mean people could feel worse based on results, but I don't know if there's anything that could happen in one of these bowl games that would really get people, ratcheted up with the optimism there.
Not a needle mover, I wouldn't say, good or bad. Like I don't think, and frankly, if Arkansas loses their bowl game, I don't think people should like take that and be like, well, now it's ruined. Like
Although, like let's say Alabama gets in and then Arkansas does go to the Texas Bowl or something, and they play Baylor or TCU, and you beat them by a couple touchdowns. Yeah, I mean,
you beat Kendall Briles, that'd be good.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
You beat Snacks, who went back to Baylor.
That's right.
We just got a few minutes here, folks. Appreciate everybody hopping in with us. I know we had some fun talking about it, but I think the Hawk Tua girl is finally going to come to an end. That whole thing. Well, thankfully, hopefully.
Did y'all see her Twitter space? Where
Yes.
she like ended it abruptly, and she's like, "Anywho, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
See y'all later. I know y'all lost $600 million. I'll see you later." That was hilarious.
Crazy, man.
That impression sounded like somebody else we used to know. So it was hard, kind of
similar vibes.
Yeah, for real. Also, just this is random. Doesn't really matter to anything. Well, no, I'll get to that later. But did you guys see that Kansas and Bill Self refused to play UConn this past week? It was a really interesting thing from Matt Norlander.
I did see that, and it's almost. I mean, part of it kind of goes back to like Andrew, you were talking about earlier, where maybe it would have made more sense if they could have got this Arkansas game Friday night instead of Saturday with the travel and the turnaround and stuff. But yeah, I guess they knew that they had Missouri on the schedule, and so they want to travel to UConn in the middle of the week and then have to go to Missouri on the weekend or whatever. So then they wound up going to Creighton, which is closer, and getting their ass kicked anyway, which is funny. But anyway, yeah. Right. That was kind of the gist of it. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah. They said the excuse was that they have a game against Missouri this weekend, but last year UConn went to Kansas and then played UNC and on shorter rest. Short rest, quick turnarounds, my favorite phrases. So yeah, those are it's just funny because, man, I would have loved to have seen UConn and Kansas go at each other. I mean, just for the sake of good games, but still, people were just like, oh, they're ducking. They're cowards that didn't want to be a part of it. So also, just random, Disney is celebrating their 70th year anniversary of being a thing. Disneyland, I should say. So I've never been to Disneyland, but I'm going to ask you guys, you get one Disney movie. What's your favorite Disney movie of all time? Animated, non-animated, anything, just a Disney
Lion King.
That's
The actual animation back in the day, not the live action one where they ruined Be Prepared.
Yes.
It's a good one.
It's probably my number one, to be honest. I love that movie as a kid, dude. Like anytime I see in the clouds, after Mufasa's dead, Simba, you have forgotten me. You have forgotten who you are and so forgotten me. Darth Vader talking to you. It's different.
I'm trying to think.
I love the movie Miracle. Miracle is a phenomenal movie. I love that movie. Yeah, I love that movie. That's a good one.
I wasn't even thinking about that being Disney.
Yeah. The only reason I know is because it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that is a Disney movie.
I don't know. Lion King, that's a really good one.
It's hard to beat that one.
Curtis, were you a Monsters Inc. guy?
A little bit.
That one smacked.
Jungle Book?
That's a good one. The original 70s one?
Yeah.
Necessities. Yeah, that was a good.
That's a good one.
Also, I keep forgetting about the Pixar movies because Toy Story's great. Can't go wrong with Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Is there a Toy Story 5 about to happen?
Probably.
They're just going to run that one ragged.
Here's the thing. 95, I was 7 when the first Toy Story came out. I've always loved Toy Story. When they came out with the third one, the way that ended, I was like, that is chef's kiss perfect.
Should have just called it a day, right? Because I was just about to say, I was like, Toy Story 3 like was really sad. Like I remember like being borderline emotional at it.
Mm-hmm.
Just call it a day. And then they were like, 10 years later, they were like, you know what? We need another slop to feed the masses.
we need another $100 billion. So
It's like when you run out of creative ideas. It's like, all right, well, we either got to run back something from a long time ago or come up with another sequel. And that's kind of where we've been at on the movie front. It feels like for the last several years.
They literally put a fork and named him Forky.
It's like, especially with Disney, because even right now, guys, they're doing a spin-off prequel of the live action Lion King called Mufasa. No one asked for that. No one asked for the live action remake was trash. And then you're like, okay, so we're going to take that pile of trash and then make this other thing trash. Just stop it. I know your guys are capable of doing something more, but I'm sick of this stuff. Ruining good movies.
Can I report some news for you guys? Curtis, sure. I apologize in advance.
Oh, boy.
There's a new Star Wars show. Have y'all heard about it?
Oh.
Yes.
No.
And it came out, I guess it was last week. Skeleton Crew. It's okay. So it's like a little like it reminds me a little bit of Stranger Things, where it like is kids are the main characters, but it's not necessarily like a kids show, but it's basically Goonies in Star Wars. But I appreciated it because it's Star Wars that's inspired by something else rather than Star Wars inspired by Star Wars. Because Star Wars got in a stretch there, like we're saying, where everything you do is just a reference to something you did before. This feels like a completely different thing. It's just, kids stumbling upon a spaceship, a little fun adventure. It's Goonies and Star Wars. I like it.
I'm sure it'll be trash.
No, it'll definitely finish trash, but the first 2 episodes didn't suck.
Yeah, it'll be good there. Yeah, 70 years of Disneyland. Because Disneyland's in California, Disney World's in Florida. Is that how that is?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a difference between them?
You know how you can tell? Disneyland, LA, and then Disney World, ORL is in the,
I never even thought about it. That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way to remember it.
On Twitter like 2 days ago. So,
let's see a few quick chats and we'll get out of here. Someone else said, Andrew said we all loved Broden. What a crock. Media was in love all offseason because he made one good catch in practice. Butterfingers Broden, always garbage.
Hey, thanks for catching the very obvious joke I was making.
Yes. Jeez.
Let me guess, you're going to tell me now that the fan base doesn't actually like Taylon Green?
Hey, he was really good in the spring.
Oh, yeah.
He was legitimately very good in the spring and then reverted back to form. But
yeah.
I had to bring this one up, Finch. He's like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm pretty positive them Disney movies are the sole reason why I like my women curvy.
That's
Miss Incredibles?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why the first person that popped up into my mind when he's thinking about like curvy women on Disney was Ursula from The Little Mermaid. I'm like, is that what you're into?
Very curvy.
So
very curvy.
Who else is curvy in Disney movies?
Hey, this is not a Disney character, but y'all know who had it going on? Dexter's mom, Dexter's Laboratory. Dexter's mom's one of the finest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I never thought about that, but yeah. All right. I was more of a Jessica Rabbit fan.
No, Jessica Rabbit had it going on.
I wouldn't call this breaking news, but it is news.
Okay.
Arkansas corner Dallas Young plans to enter the transfer portal.
Who?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Redshirt freshman DB.
Yeah.
Do we need to stay live for another 20, 30 minutes talking about it?
No.
Okay.
just a piece of the secondary. Moving on.
Yep. And good knowing this one from Reggie.
If we can't agree that Luke has is a big loss, I definitely don't think we're going to sell him on Dallas Young being a big loss.
Reggie says, y'all attract the most extreme fans. I don't know a single fan in real life who thinks or says the same things of what y'all see. LOL. Welcome to the internet. Because it
becomes very complicated to figure out what gets you people going.
Yeah.
No, that is fair. And look, it's something that we battle with a lot, sometimes because we're just seeing all this. But I will say on the Satania front, because the Hasz thing, I think there's more real fans that are addressing that the Hasz a big loss. But the Satania front, I got like 3 text messages and people, on Discord, on Twitter. I mean, because it was Twitter that was getting it, and in the chat, it was unanimous. Everyone thought we were stupid for thinking Satania was a big loss. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but there definitely is a factor where like sometimes we see people bitching in the comments, but they're not really people in real life aren't bitching, but
I will say that this is just for me personally. I got asked the other day because I don't know if people saw. I get ripped on the internet a lot, and it's fine. And someone's like, "How do you?" He's like, "Why aren't you ever respond or go back to it or whatever?" I was like, "Because it's the internet." And I just like to focus on the 99% of you that are normal, good people that just don't say anything. You just consume the content, or good dudes and good women and good everybody. That's the people who get my focus instead of worrying about, Hog Slop 69 in the chat that's, talking about my hairline. So that's what I try to focus on.
For y'all that watch and enjoy our show and just don't comment, which, by the way, like, that's how I consume content as well. Like, I don't comment on stuff a lot. Every now and then, just like once a week, drop us a little, hey, I'm listening and I like it. Don't have anything to comment. Just want to let you know. I'm a normal person. I'm cool and I like you. We like that kind of stuff.
We like that chat. We like those chats. Guys, I'm going to ask a question I know I'm going to regret. I'm sorry. I know we got to wrap up here. I don't know what that means. So I know y'all do.
Big, beautiful women. And
is don't try to
act like for a second you don't know what that means. What are you talking about?
I don't. I legitimately do not know what that means.
This just reminds me of our conversation last night at Farrell's about John and his marriage status and the future. And
it's like I saw this and I was like, I feel like I should know this, but I don't. And if it's something that's inappropriate, you can just tell me after the stream's over. But
I can't tell if this is a bit or not. But
I swear, like, listen. Okay. I swear to you, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I have guesses, but I'm not going to say them. But still, just okay. Well, SCT is SCT right in the chat? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
It means big, beautiful women. That's what it means.
Okay. I'm not a fan of those. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching into Inside Arkansas Live. We always appreciate you guys tapping in with us. It's been a busy week, fun week, and it's only going to get bigger, better, and brighter from here. Going to be a big weekend, so be sure to tune in and subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas, as we're going to have Pot at the Palace post-game show tomorrow. We'll have a live reaction on Sunday for the bowl game for Arkansas. Any portal pops that are huge, then we're going to be getting into that as well. And be sure to follow us on social media at Inside Arkansas. Check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the latest and greatest information for all things Razorbacks. Keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel on Monday. We'll see you guys this weekend. Have a great